Greetings from Dr. Preethi's Biochemistry Made Easy. Most of the learners face the problem of memory retention, right? And reproducibility of the concepts learned in exam is not absolute. Now let's crack this down in this session. Educationists who identified there are concepts in the learning process, and there are four different components of the learning process. So it starts with concrete experience, and this is followed by reflective observation, and next is abstract conceptualization, and the last is active experimentation. So when we follow this all the four components in a sequential manner, what happens is long-term potentiation of the memory occurs. So when this is not followed, when we stop our learning process at one or two components, it results only in short-term memory gain. Now let's understand this David Scobb's learning process with some real life examples. Now suppose if you are a medical student or a dental student and you have listened to a lecture on isoenzymes. So listening just to the lecture imparts the concrete experience. You have just gained an experience on various isoenzymes. Now this should be followed by reflective observation. Now what is this next sequential increase in learning processes? You need to introspect and identify what you have learned, what was taught in that lecture, and what you have learned from that particular lecture. So this is step 2. So next is step 3, that is abstract conceptualization. Here you need to remember all the isoenzymes that was taught in the lecture, and you have to use your own concept maps to remember that. If you cannot use concept map, you can log into my channel and understand all the concepts. So that is abstract conceptualization. You cannot stop the learning process here. You have to move one step ahead for active experimentation, where you need to discuss all the concepts that you have learned with your close friends. Now this will complete the loop, and when you do it repetitively, what happens, there occurs long term retention of the memory. So if you stop at any one point of this learning process, what happens, there will be only short term memory gain, and you will be able to reproduce it only for a short term. For long term potentiation of your memory, you need to follow all the four components of the Cobb's learning process in a sequential manner, and that you have to do it repetitively for long term memory gain, so that you will be able to reproduce the content absolutely in your university examination, or face the oral examination, or be it answering a competitive exam also. Let me give one more example to understand this learning process better. So this is for the applied part. Okay, so you are listen to a lecture on regulation of blood glucose. So that becomes the first component of the learning process, that is concrete experience. The next one is reflective observation. So here you are required to interpret the fasting plasma glucose, postprandial plasma glucose, or the random plasma glucose of a diabetic patient. This is for applied learning. Okay. So next is you need to understand why there occurs hyperglycemia in this particular diabetic patient. So that is the third component of the learning process, abstract conceptualization. Now you have understood why there occurs hyperglycemia based on interpretation of fasting, postprandial, and random plasma glucose values in a diabetic patient. You cannot stop here. Now you have to compare and contrast different reports from different patients, okay, and different causes of hyperglycemia. So now from just listening to a lecture, there was short-term memory gain, and from interpretation and abstract conceptualization, so you were able to figure it out why there was hyperglycemia in this particular patient. So when you compare and contrast different reports from different patients from different causes of hyperglycemia, so what happens, you will get a holistic and a comprehensive understanding of different causes of hyperglycemia, and this will remain in your memory for lifelong. So this was about the how to utilize the Cobb's learning process, all the four components. So when you go for repetitive one, there occurs long-term retention of memory. Now just to give you the evidence of the same, so this was carried out this study was carried out on 2011 batch, wherein we compared and contrast different components of the learning process on the students, number of students, and their scores. Okay, now if you just observe, there were 48 students who were practicing only concrete experience, that is they were just listening to the lecture. And what was their mark score? Their average marks was around 30 for 75. Okay, so and those students, 7 students had practiced this part, reflective observation, wherein they were able to interpret different lab reports. Okay, so and their score was 33, and 18 percentage of the students were in the third stage, that is abstract conceptual. They were having their own concepts. Okay, and their score was around 36 out of 75. Active experimentation, there were only 5% of the students and their score was 40%. Okay, now just check out this part. 22% of the students were going through this repetitive cycles of the learning process, from concrete experience to reflective observation, followed by abstract conceptualization and active experimentation, and their score was around 60 out of 25. So this is the evidence-based practice I'm presenting to you. So please do follow the learning process as described by David Cobb, and go for repetitive cycles, so that you will be gaining with long-term memory gain, and also you'll be able to score better when compared to others. So that's all from Dr. Preeti. Thank you. Please do like, share and subscribe.